Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's episode. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Here's our day.
What is going on with the CLS Rebels? Welcome back, Islanders. Welcome to another episode of What is going on. Today, we're going to talk about the CLS Rebels. Let me explain why. Okay, so I looked about all the teams in this game, and there's one team that is kind of unique to the game. I say unique, I'm going to talk about another one in a second, but the CLS Rebels have stood the test of time. Now, as one of the teams that's probably about the third or fourth team that people start to unlock, they start to head towards Chewie, they start to head towards C-3PO and CLS. It's very, very early in the game that people get this team, but even now today, in Kyber 1, this team still gets used. And we're going to talk a little bit about why it's important, the mechanics about how it works, and maybe a little bit about the Zeta priorities and stuff like that. But yeah, so let me do a little bit of a history lesson now. I think C-3PO was added around late 2018-ish, I think. And then Chewie was added like the middle of 2020. So this team has actually been in existence now for 4.5 years in its current makeup. It hasn't had another Omicron, it hasn't had another Zeta. It literally is just as intact as it was 4.5 years ago. And that's what makes this kind of strange. I do say unique, but we'll talk about Traya another day, but Traya is probably the only other one that kind of has that stickability. But let's talk about CLS Rebels today. Yes, I'm picking this team because this is a team that everyone gets super early in the game, and people still use it a long time later. We talk about power creep in this game, and we talk about obsoleting old teams and them no longer being as good. But this team, for some reason, still survives. And let's talk about why. Okay, so Han shoots first. In a game about TM, in a game about turn order, the fact that Han shoots first regardless is kind of a broken mechanic, and what an incredible mechanic to have. And imagine in 5 or 10 years time, Han will still shoot first in this game, and that is quite an incredible thing. So this is why we're doing this video today, because I would say that any investment or any spending of materials you put on this team will never go to waste. You will be using this in 5 years time, you'll be using this in 10 years time, and when we're playing this game in 20 years time, you'll still be using CLS Rebels to take things down. So let's talk about Zetas. Now, this is where there's a little bit of a problem with the team. The team is very Zeta heavy. Now, it does have a lot of Zetas on it, and that can be very difficult when you're unlocking characters very, very quickly. But let me just kind of break down a bit of a priority about how I would look at it. Well, I think Han shoots first. Han shoots first would be my first one. And getting that double tap at the start. Now, this team is all about kind of nuking one character. We'll talk about what it counters in a minute at different levels, but this is about nuking one character, and Han shoots first is probably the first Zeta I would do. Second up, I would probably then switch on to CLS and do it binds all things. That's when we start to kind of bring in this turn meter train. That means that this team gets so many goes in a row. Then I think I would go loyal friend on Chewbacca. What would I miss out? Well, you probably don't need oh my goodness on C-3PO early. You probably don't need that one at all. Wait for me is not too bad, but I think I would go Han shoot first. Then I think I would go at bind all things. Then I think I'd go loyal friend. Then I think I'd go back to CLS for learn control as the fourth one. After that, well, then it really depends what you're doing. Eventually, all the Zetas are good. They all do something on the team, but a lot of them are just adding tenacity. You got to remember, you're trying to fuel a sort of a TM loop with this team, and frequently you do end up in a TM loop. So that's kind of the Zeta order that I'd put. If I was a relic order, who would I relic? Well, I think Chewie and Han this initial hit, so you want Chewie, Han, and then probably CLS. Another disadvantage of this team, it is a little squishy at times. So when we talk about modding in a minute, you'll notice I would probably advocate a little bit of health on them, but we'll talk about that in a second. So yeah, so that's kind of the Zeta order, maybe the relic order, about how it would work. I wouldn't be too bothered about your relics on C-3PO. Just get them to like relic 5 or relic 3 or whatever you need, and just leave them there. The other thing that's very unique about this team is that CLS is an UFU. Now, why is that important? So, let me just call him up. He, being an UFU, actually, instead of being a Jedi, which at the time was quite controversial, and people were like, "Oh no, he should have been a Jedi. He should have been a Jedi." Making him an UFU now has a very strange advantage to the game. It means that every time there's an UFU datacron, you end up with CLS benefiting. And in fact, this team benefits from about more, I would say, more datacrons than any other team in the game. You've got an UFU in there, you've got a Wookiee in there, you've got a droid in there. They're all rebels. You can even at times kind of switch in old Ben and use a Jedi in there, but this team in its attack, and I'm talking about CLS, CHUPIO, C-3PO, Chewie, and Han Solo, that team in particular has a lot of tags and really common tags. So I think that this team really stands the test of time and using of datacrons as well. Let me now talk to my early game players. Let me talk to my inner rim initiates. Okay, so you've got CLS. What are you gonna do with it? Well, defensively, it can be an absolute nightmare to beat. The fact that Han Solo can just suddenly yeet somebody off the pitch, and you're like, oh no. So CLS can be a major problem on defense. On offense, you're probably looking to take down, well, traditionally things like Geonosians with that single damage, the ability to ignore taunt from Han Solo as well. But yeah, I think Bad Batch, Geonosians, Phoenix is probably now the main one. So I would suggest that if I was unlocking this team now, I think I would be looking to counter Phoenix with it and work on that. Let's move on to my mid-rim masters. Okay, so this is where we start to see this CLS team really take its hold, because this team counters a huge amount in GAC. It counters Bad Batch. It counters Grand Inquisitor, obviously without Reva. It counters Adrad, Dr. Aphra, Saw Gerrera, Maldalorians, and it can even be used to clean up a GL. So if you leave a lone Jabba or a lone Rey, CLS is going to clean that up for you absolutely fantastically. So I would say this team is hyper important. Let me talk about modding of this team at this point, and talk to my mid-rim masters. Now, this is where you need to kind of decide what you want to do. Now, there are two schools of thought in how to mod this team. Speed is obviously important. So you want speed on CLS, but eventually you can start moving to things like offense and health. So the higher your relics go, the less you need to be concerned about things like tenacity and not getting dazed at the start. And eventually you kind of move to having a sort of a offense and health set on. But at the start, when you're lower relic levels, you're probably going to have to kind of be careful about tenacity and things like that, and maybe move to sort of, but it depends what you're using them for. So I would say kind of like offense and health on them. Keep them alive, keep them hitting. And yeah, things like tenacity to reject can be good at the start. But like I say, it depends what you're using it for. But that's the beauty of this team. This team is a ubiquitous thing. You can use it for anything in the game, and it kills a huge amount of things. So I hope that's kind of covered a little bit of my modding there. Let me talk to my outer rim legends. Okay, so we talked about everyone you're going to counter with them. So you keep them for offense, I would say. They can be good in defense, but keep them for offense. I'm guilty of putting on defense too often. Now, the problem about having on defense is the AI. You're dealing with the AI, and the AI will choose who it wants to counter. So I would say keep it on offense. It's a team that you can use to clean something up or to get rid of something, and it is a very, very good trade-off. So it tends to hit up. Now, what do most people in Kyber use it for? Well, taking down gas. Gas is the main use now, I guess, of CLS. It's a major, major counter. So I think run, take on CLS. Now, how would I do a CLS versus gas battle? I favor stunning Rex at the start. I think getting that, stunning him, preventing the tenacity up, and then going after gas, I think that has a slightly higher win rate than going straight after gas. Now, you guys might disagree with me, so please stick it down in the comments below if you would do the battle slightly differently. There's two schools of thought. You go straight after gas, or you stun Rex and then go after gas. I like the stunning of Rex. It also means that when gas eventually sits down, after you hopefully kill 5s, you're then over and you can kill Rex much, much faster. So you tend not to kind of leave. But you are risking, because gas will get a few turns, he will have a few hits, and maybe at that point you possibly want a little bit of tenacity on your Chewie in particular. Stop him getting dazed. You want to kind of avoid that. So I'd probably put a little bit more tenacity on Chewie, and I would probably do it that way. Anyway, how was that, you guys? I mean, let me know down below. Let me know if that was a good cover of the Rebel team. Let me know if there's anything else you'd rather I'd included. And we'll talk about another team, probably Treya, at some point in a few weeks' time. Until next time, everyone, enjoy your swiggle, and it's good to be on the island today. Look after yourself. See you on Twitch. Welcome to Samplies. Good night.